Well, good morning, everybody. And as we get started, I just want to give a quick shout out to my cell phone service provider who decided to perform a hard reset on both my phone and my wife's phone. So I got to sleep in until 6:30 this morning, but that's a couple hours too late for me to get this report out to you earlier. Maybe I need to get a old school alarm clock or I don't know, a rooster or something. But just looking here at some satellite imagery, I want to take you back to last night just as the sun was setting. This was very disappointing, this front that came right here through parts of the eastern Corn Belt. This front had promised a bit more storms, but we were capped in this area. In other words, the mid-level temperatures were too warm for these storms to break through. And as a result, as the sun set, we just didn't get anything out of it. Also notice in the west, the large fire here in California, the Washburn fire. Just again, something we pointed out in yesterday's long-range outlook. It's going to be this front we're going to watch today. So as we fast forward, this is now this morning as the sun rose. We're watching this front to slice through parts of the New England area and initiating some stronger storms in that region. But just to show you the last 24 hours of precipitation, let's shrink that up so you can see the color bar there. Again, this whole region, we had forecast quite a bit more rainfall than actually fell. Okay, a couple of maps I really want you to read in the report today. This is one of the more important ones. You're looking here at the last 30 days, percent of normal precipitation. But what I did was I got rid of everything above 50%. So you're only seeing regions that saw less than half their normal rainfall over the last month. Now, we know that parts of the Mid-South getting into the Southern Plains, this region and through here, is having its driest 30-day stretch of weather for this time of year, as far back as we have records. But pockets throughout the Corn Belt, throughout New England, very dry in parts of New England. Of course, because the southwest monsoons come in like this, we've not spread that rain farther to the west. So this is just an important map to take in, given the temperature stresses that we are forecasting. In fact, this is just a great representation of that temperature stress as seen by the Climate Prediction Center. This would be the time frame of the 19th through the 25th. And because of the ridge placement over the kind of the Great Basin Four Corners area, flow is expected to come in and do something a bit like this. It's going to be farther to the north as well than the climatological average, and that's just going to allow a lot of heat during the hottest time of year to be in parts of the Mid-South, the Southern Plains, but expand throughout much of the central United States. Today's all hazards weather map, we still have the excessive heat warnings and heat advisories in that region, but we have quite a bit of heat that's building into the west. The severe weather side of this, though, is going to be along that front swiping through parts of New England. So Storm Prediction Center did extend this area under the slight risk, and this morning added an area from like D.C. through parts of New Jersey, maybe getting up to New York City, of enhanced risk today. And just looking at that using the high-res NAM, you're going to see that low curling through parts of Quebec, dragging a front through New England throughout the day today. The system that's down here along the Gulf Coast, remember we talked about that yesterday, I don't see a whole lot of potential for this system. And maybe given the position of these fronts that are coming through, it may bring more of its rain farther to the south than originally anticipated. But through this evening, scattered storms still running here on the backside of that broader trough, coming through parts of the upper Midwest into the Great Lakes states, but they kind of fizzle out in the overnight hours, which is expected. So as we go into the day on Wednesday, this is Wednesday afternoon and evening, could have some isolated storms moving through parts of the eastern Corn Belt. The heaviest precipitation later in the day is right down here in parts of the southeast. And we're going to watch for some of those storms to push through parts of the Carolinas. I'll keep an eye out on Wednesday for the potential for some strong to severe storms in this particular area of North and South Carolina. As we go through the overnight hours on Wednesday into early Thursday, the front advances pretty far to the south, and that kind of sets us up for the pattern we expect to see for the remainder of the week. So here's your next 7 days of total accumulated precipitation. And when I look at this map, I, of course, see the heavy rains we talked about in detail this week that are down here in the southeast associated with that little tropical disturbance. But outside of some storms through the upper Midwest, coming through the Canadian Prairie, much of the country is quite dry. I like to look at these maps a lot. I think they contain a lot of information. And so here we go. This is the probability of getting more than an inch of rain from the European ensemble through the next 10 days. So you can see that even throughout this section of the Midwest and Corn Belt, our probabilities of getting another inch are, in that 30 to 50% range. That's pretty low considering how much rain we would like to get in this area. And then we can flip this over and say, well, what about the chances of getting less than half of an inch? And now you can start to see that where that heat builds in, or continues, I should say, from the plains into the Mid-South and Midwest, this area is really looking quite dry during that time period as well. So if we kind of balance out the next 2 weeks, this is the latest from the European, and I'm focusing on the European because it's performing best right now in terms of skill scores. One interesting thing to take note of is the model went more aggressive on the rainfall here at the end of this, well, really it's this weekend into early next week. The models are attempting to stall out a weak frontal boundary here, feeding it on flow coming around the big subtropical ridge out over the Atlantic, and just increasing the thunderstorm threat in this area. And to be honest, we need that to verify. We're going to continue to watch that model trend to see if these rains are produced. But from week 1 into week 2, again, the models are just kind of honing in on the eastern side of the big ridge that's over the Great Basin, which puts that in the plains as to where the greatest drought risk is going to be. On the temperature side of this, it's a hot one up the west coast today. You can see 101 in the Snake River Valley, still triple digits in Texas. But as we go from Tuesday into Wednesday and Thursday, the heat spreads into the central United States, where we could see 100-degree weather as far north as South Dakota. The cooler conditions in the east don't last too much longer. As we go into the weekend, there's Friday and Saturday and Sunday. Temperatures start to rebound back up to normal. But a lot of what you see down here, this is driven by cloud cover, keeping things cooler. But notice for much of the plains, the western corn belts, getting toward Montana, mid to upper 90s, lower 100s, very hot during this time of year, which is going to be critical for the crops that are in very important reproductive stages right now in this area. Just to show you that 5-day sliding window of temperatures as we approach the end of this forecast video, as we move out here toward the third week of July, and then beyond, you don't notice too much of a pattern change. The models are really kind of stuck on setting up a flow that kind of comes in like this and over like that, keeping the main ridge axis right in through here. And that's why we see temperatures in the central plains that could be daytime highs averaging 8 to 10 degrees above normal in Fahrenheit, with overnight lows all the way up to here getting as high as 70 and above, which could be problematic for the crop. Take a close look at the report. I include a lot of information about international weather, including a quick discussion on Europe, China, and India, also a little bit on Australia. In addition to that, we do put in the new long-range outlook from the European model and have a discussion about that. And finally, I also put in some information about just taking a look here at the long-range forecast for the start of the next South American growing season. So we kind of packed it full of some good information today. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Thanks.